Hi guys, sorry I'm not shaved, but I think it's not the main aspect of our chess lessons. And now it's time to see the rapid game against the same opponent, Danny Garcia, to decide which will go through the next round. So, in the first rapid game I was playing with black, e4, c5, knight f3, 64, take, take. We repeated the same opening line, and he again played a3. I didn't have enough time to prepare for this variation because the rapid game was played at the same day. So the first thing that came to my head is that okay, I can play knight f6 transpose to the Taimanov system, and obviously a3 move is not the most scary continuation from the white side. So I decided to play solid way. So okay, bishop e3, knight f6, and white continues to play the same style, g4. Well, I immediately understood that g4 maybe was a little bit premature because we have a very nice continuation here, h5. And okay, it's not correct to say that it destroys white's position, but really damages a lot the white pawn structure on the king side, and the attacking potential is really very low now. Main problem is that playing g5, of course, is not good because obviously knight g5 will be answered. Bishop is hanging, then bishop c5 can go also to put some additional pressure over f2 pawn, and things are looking really bad for white. So he has to take on h5. Knight takes h5, and of course now with this type of pawn structure, oops, yeah, he cannot really plan serious pawn push on the king side. Well, queen d2, and here I spent a few minutes maybe to find the next continuation. The problem is that we can simply play b5, bishop b7, we can play knight d4 and after that b5, bishop b7, or we can even play knight e5 and then bishop b7. So it was not so clear to understand what's the difference. Finally I decided to take on d4. However, maybe b5 is the best continuation in this position. We definitely don't afraid of knight takes c6 because it will be answered with the d takes, and for example after castle just e5, fixing nicely the pawn structure in the center. So after castle, okay, it's a very complex position where chances are equal, well, dynamically equal. Bishop b7 for example, okay, here, or rook b1 or king b1 also can be played. Let's take a look at the rook b1, for example, b4. Sorry, pawn takes, bishop takes, king b1, and we try to put some additional pressure over c3 knight, and also look for these interesting squares. Okay, right now, of course, entrance to these positions are not working, but knight d4 at least is occupied with the defensive job. And if white now plays most logical f4, we have some crazy tactical complications which are not forced at all. Even 95 was not a forced move. I'm just, for example, demonstrating how complex is the position, reach of the dynamical possibilities. Knight f6, pawn takes knight e4, queen d3, take on c3, and bishop g2. White tries to take as much material as possible, and now very nasty move, rook b8. So bishop takes c4, bishop takes c4. We start here scary attack. However, right now knight b3 puts everything under control. Rook h2, rook g2, take, take. Oops, sorry. Here first check intermediate to make worse, make more passive the queen's position. And now he takes on g2. However, even after this, we can just play queen b8, rook d3, bishop e5, he can exchange the bishop, and even after just g3, okay, we have perfectly enough compensation for the piece. A lot of pawns for the knight, and there is no stability for the white king. I don't know if we can really play for the win here with black, but no problem. Yeah, that's probably for sure. So, okay, this is one of the possibilities demonstrating how complex and double-edged is the position after knight e5. Okay, I decided to go for knight takes d4. I think my opponent here makes a little mistake. He should take it with the bishop. For instance, bishop takes d4, b5, castle, bishop b7, and now white has a typical and really disturbing bishop e5, speculating with this weak d7 square. And probably the best thing we can do here is to sacrifice a pawn. d6, bishop takes, okay, or queen takes. Anyway, everything is changing. Exchanged here. So queen d7, rook d2, and knight f4. Well, technically white has an extra pawn, but this type of pawn structures is already well known in the Sicilians. Of course, these guys are really bad. Also, potentially his bishop is a very bad bishop, especially if his pawn f2 in near future will need to go to the f3 square. And black's compensation is quite enough for the pawn. However, from the beginning, when I was playing, let's say, knight takes d4, I wouldn't like to go to that position with the pawn down and with compensation that gives enough chances, equal chances. So if I would knew about this possibility, of course, once again, we have to mention that I would try to start with the first b5 or first knight e5. However, okay, I had a little luck here, so queen takes d4 and b5, castle, bishop b7, and also already he doesn't have that bishop e5 opportunity. So now black's position is very good. Once again, what is our main advantage? It's a long-term positional advantage which is connected with a terrible pawn structure in the white's position. So it's not about the count play or a checkmate. Just for example, if we imagine that queens are exchanged and white's potential to develop some initiative, create pressures against my centralized king are over, then obviously black will get immediately huge advantage. So okay, rook g1. Here I was not sure if I should come back with my knight, so I just played rook c8. However, it was better to play knight f6 and to avoid e5, cutting off the knight on h5 square. Now, for example, okay, pawn h2 is always hanging there. Let's say e5, knight e5, knight takes, bishop takes, and black has slightly better position, first of all because of the strategic points. We already mentioned that pawn structure factor, and in near future, of course, I would try to pressure on c2, and maybe at some point even some exchange of the queens and additional pieces, and in the end game, weakness of this pawn structure will be more visible when our king is in a less danger. Okay, still rook c8, and my opponent did not use his chance now. He didn't play e5. Okay, somebody is writing a message, so let's put the phone far from the microphone. So, okay, rook c8, e5. Oh, sorry, he played e5, he used his chance, and now my knight is slightly in the corner. However, it's not a problem because from the beginning I wanted to play g6 here. I like this move very much in this position because my opponent already started to have some time trouble, and how we have to play when the opponent has little time at the clock. Probably we shouldn't force the game. We shouldn't create situation when he can easily simplify the position or find forced only moves easily. We want to create a tension when it's tough to find any concrete solution and he has to deal with many different options, ideas, maneuvers. This puts the highest number of the problems on the player who has a little time. So I thought, okay, g6 is a good move because it has multiple ideas. Well, first of all, I neutralize the pressure of the rook. Also, my bishop can come to the game as from this way. Also, he still keeps the options on e7. And what's the most important thing is that knight h5 can really find a nice position on e5 square. So maybe this is even a perfect strategy to play against a player who was down on the clock. So bishop g2. Yeah, this is already a mistake. But this is a mistake on a psychological level. We both here thought that bishop takes a3 will never be possible. Because of the simple reason. He takes, I take, and he takes on d7 with the check. So this check, queen takes d7, attacking my king, has so strong psychological effect. Yet we both thought that, no, this should not be allowed from the black side. In truth, probably it was better from white just to continue king b1. And after bishop g2, bishop takes g2, rook takes g2. Again, under the psychological imagination, where I, from the beginning, just discarded bishop takes a3 option, played a bad game against me, and I just went for some, let's say, solid knight g7. But bishop takes a3 was working perfectly in this position. Bishop takes a3, pawn takes, take, check, and this is just a check. It's good to think a prophylaxis way and always pay attention to the potential of your opponent, his opportunities, his attacking ideas. This is something that really shows the player's high level. But it is not correct to always stay passive and first of all concentrate only about avoiding opponent threat, because sometimes our threats are more important. So now after king f8, our king will easily go to the g7, while white king will stay in a terrible situation, and I already don't want to say anything about his pawn structure, right? So technically, game is already decided. But psychology enters into the game, and I just ignored that bishop takes a3 opportunity. So knight g7. Okay, knight goes to the f5, queen d3, knight f5, knight e4. Here probably it was better to put bishop on g7, attacking the pawn, and when he will go f4, rook enters quite nicely on the third rank. But I went for bishop e7 because I wanted to take under control all the weak squares, and simply this is more solid. A typical quick game strategy to have things under control. And now, okay, bishop g5, and I thought it's time to finish the game with a forced attack. However, it was better simply to take on g5. And after, let's say, knight takes g5, rook d8. Again, black strategy is very simple. Or we want to play d6 or d5, or we want to offer a queen exchange and transpose to the endgame where white's pawn structure is damaged and very sensible. So this would offer to black very solid and stable advantage. Instead of that, I went immediately rook h3 and really thought that it was a strong continuation. Just I missed that white has a tricky answer f3 and c2 pawn is protected. So I don't have rook takes f3 and he still stays in the game. Well, anyway, with a little time, my opponent didn't see that option and answered the queen d2. But now, yeah, now already it's a bad situation for white because there is another tactical strike. Knight b3 the threat. He cannot take the knight. So king b1 and knight f3. And finally, the reason why white lost in this game is that because of g4 and an exchange of that pawn in the very early part of the game, he left with the bad structure and a lot of weak squares in his position. So queen e2, queen takes e5. Okay, on a human level is a good move. However, computer says that queen c4 was even more calm and solid. Queen takes e5, Here white had last chance. It was bishop f6, forcing bishop takes f6, check, and winning exchange. But we have to say true, it's really tough to continue here playing with white because the compensation for the exchange is much more than just enough. Obviously, it's already bishop and the pawn for the rook, but much better pawn structure and a lot of weaknesses. Okay, white didn't use this last chance. He played bishop takes e7, king takes e7, rook g3, take, d5. Oh my god, now everybody wants to write the messages. I'm sorry for that. So queen takes e4, queen takes e4, pawn takes e4, and okay, technically this endgame is quite easy to win, especially with a little time for your opponent. Rook d4, f5, and another mistake, because now we have a chance to play rook c4, and we transpose to the opponent game with an extra pawn, or we win second pawn. So rest part of the game is not very important. To be honest, I didn't remember that. Okay, black won the game. In the second game with white, I played bad in the opening. I didn't find anywhere on the internet that game saved, so I cannot show the moves. Don't remember it yet already that game. I can say that okay, draw was enough for me. Started quite passive in the opening and was suffering a little bit in the middle game, but my opponent did not use all the chances, and finally it was draw. So I qualified to the next round. Very tough matchup, very tough mini match with my pupil. And okay, we will see next games of the next rounds in the next videos. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the messages and some WhatsApp notifications. Next time I'll try to turn off the phone before I start making a video. See you next time. Bye bye.